Hi, and welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast. Today we're going to have on James Altucher, which is going to be really cool. We've been actually kind of wanting behind the scenes to have James on for a while, and so we finally asked, and he said yes, he'd like to come on, and so we're going to have him on in about 15 minutes, so good stuff there.
That's a bold idea, actually, asking people we want to talk to be on the show. We should try that more often.
Well, I used to have this old method where I just kind of said nothing, and it never ever occurred. Well, because think about the number of times during the first year of SPP that 3:15, 3:30 arrived and nobody showed up.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the weirdest
every
thing.
Birthday party I ever had.
Yeah. So, but I think this is going to be a really cool episode because if you don't know James, he's got a lot going on, but his book is Choose Yourself, and it's all about it's about choosing yourself. It's about not waiting for a company or the economy or anybody else to determine what's going to happen with you and to choose you as worthy of success, and choosing yourself, which is what we talk about all the time here. So I anticipate this being a really good conversation here. Yeah. Sean and I choose ourselves so often that we're stupid. We're like no, motherfucker, we're choosing ourselves to make this unicorn Western thing.
Yeah,
we don't care.
We write plugged. Clearly, we choose ourselves to a fault. Anyone have anything cool this week? Well, I know we had something cool an hour ago because this is another back-to-back.
I can't have two cool things at once.
You can't.
I have something.
That's like writing
cool.
2 stories at once, Dave. You just can't do it.
Too much for me.
I have something cool. I mentioned this on the Ask Us Anything hangout last night. So at the risk of over-flattering, my something cool is the Walking Dave podcast.
Fuck you. That was my
Is that what you're going to say?
Yes.
That's what you get for watching. Let me go first, motherfucker.
And oddly, I don't have anything cool. How odd is that?
The Walking Dave podcast. You better think fast, Sean. The Walking Dave podcast is. Well, maybe we could just share. Let's just talk about you and I both.
You all praise me, and I'll just sit here.
I got another one, but I'll add to this. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the Walking Dave podcast is Dave walking to lose weight, and I love so much about the Walking Dave podcast. I love it in satirical ways, and I love it in serious ways. So
satirical.
Well, here's what I mean by the satirical ways, because the first spoiler alert here, episode 1 of The Walking Dave is Dave sitting in his car. And that's just something that's just poetic about it.
It's setting the bar low, really.
And so Audra's intro says, the podcast where cartoonist and writer David Wright walks to lose weight, and then Dave says, I'm here in my car.
At least I wasn't eating a bucket of chicken or something.
So I love that.
That would have been better.
And then there's a later one where he's in his house and he, but beyond that, beyond the busting balls, it's a really human podcast, and it's there's some real sincerity in it. You really see that Dave is making some changes here and has really good reasons for doing so, and it's not just like I want to lose weight. It's like I won't spoil it for anybody, but the one which sounds terrible, the episode where your cat died is like the most wrenching episode, and it's like, why am I listening to this? And then at the end it's like, oh, I'm like so firmly on Team Dave now, because I wasn't before. I've been thinking about stealing all your shit and running off until then.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed actually the whole network. As of today, I'm actually caught up. I've listened to everything that we've published, and I like that. I like to hear what we're doing because I want to make sure that it's good, and it's been really fun to hear stuff that I recorded and forgot about. Like the almanacs, which were recorded a while ago, are already outdated, and that's kind of funny to listen to those. The Walking Daves I've really enjoyed. The Smarter Artists from both of you. Although it's really funny to listen to Dave's Smarter Artists, which are, if you count like Audra's time to do the front and back bumpers, they actually are longer than Dave's time doing the podcast.
I don't have a lot to say on these things.
Like, if I were to take a quarter and put it in a gumball machine, turn the crank, and get my prize, that would take me long.
Yes, but what you're missing is that you and I are padding. We're the guys who write, publish, repeat, and people say, just get to the fucking point already.
Yeah, if I wrote, write, publish, repeat, it would be a 25-page book.
It'd be a
Well, it would have
pamphlet.
just said write, publish, repeat, and that's it. It's done.
Dave's been giving out just the cover. He does that thing where they tear off the cover and
There you
return
go.
it.
So I have really enjoyed it, but there's and this morning I heard the worst show ever, episode 1.
Oh
which
my
is
god,
basically
I'm so eager to hear that.
yeah, there's a very Davy Christmas. There, I know
It's
it's
the
a
best
two-part
of.
episode.
It's the worst of Better Off Undead as worst show ever launches.
Right, and there's no the second episode I know is going to have like the fancy man from Panera and a few others that I missed in the first one, but this has a very Davy Christmas. It has Decoy Wallet, which I have not heard since the original, and that was very funny. So I really like that. But there's something so human about Walking Dave, and I'm not even kidding right now. I want to play episode 2 for my children, and I want them to hear it.
I'm not going to play it for my children or my child.
but I just think that it's I don't know, it's so human, and I love it so much, and it really, like Johnny said that well, you just want to be on Team Dave, and it's very meta, like to hear you heavy breathing as you're thinking of
You can hear the fat clogging his arteries as he
No,
walks.
seriously, that's part of the theater of it, because you're going to get to like episode 50, and people are going to listen, and they're going to be like, oh, I don't hear that anymore. Like he's having an easier time. That's very visceral.
To me, I like the process. I like going out and walking and talking about whatever's on my mind. But to me, it feels boring, and it also feels like the heavy breathing and how like I'm not as articulate when I'm walking.
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit.
Yeah, I know, but
I hate
true to
it.
form, you're not giving yourself.
Yeah, I can't listen back to them because I know I'll just tear them apart and hate them. So
Yeah,
Well,
just
and
Well,
I
we're
imagine the heavy
listening
breathing,
to
and I imagine heavy breathing is a
Yeah.
turnoff, except to the actual weird people that have a Dave fetish, which is like some people in a prison somewhere. I don't know.
Well, I really enjoyed it. It is my favorite of the podcasts. I don't think it's certainly niche. Like it's not going to appeal to everybody, but I think that the people who love you, and I think there are a lot of people who do, will really enjoy the show.
No, he doesn't get that, but it's like the fact that you are down on yourself makes you likable, and like Sean and I, we just think we're awesome all the
We
time.
love
It's
ourselves.
stupid.
Yeah,
like
it's
we're assholes.
It's asinine.
And Dave isn't like us. Dave is self-effacing, and that makes him likable.
But really, dude, it's a great show, and I look forward to it. And I always light up when it's in the feed. Oh, I want to listen to that. And I'm listening to a book right now called Sex at Dawn, which I'm very, very much enjoying. It's like
When it's made into a movie, you're gonna take Haley to see that.
definitely. Yeah, it's just about like basically the I don't know. It's a lot of like debunking sexual. Like I don't know. It's a book about. Hold on, let me.
What does this have to do with me?
Well, it's just because I'm enjoying this so much, and yet I chose to listen to Walking Dead on my walk this morning
Walking Dave.
instead of this Walking Dave.
Okay. I was
Right. So it's called, and then I just started this, but I would really highly recommend it actually. It's called Sex at Dawn: The Prehistoric Origins of Modern Sexuality, and I really like it so far. Anyway, my something cool is I don't think we've officially announced this yet, so it is pretty cool. It happened right after the Stone Table event, but Sterling and Stone officially does have a new imprint. It's Legendary, and Garrett Robinson, who is fondly referred to as our recovering fuck up, is the actual imprint. It's his imprint, and it'll all be fantasy books. And we've basically acquired his Nightblade series and are getting those kind of reconditioned, and to prepare for his 4th book in the launch. And so that's all pretty awesome, and I have very high hopes and expectations for what Legendary will do. And Garrett's a very natural storyteller, and I don't know, just an awesome addition to our team.
To be fair, if you count the alternate definition of fantasy, most of CI is Dave's fantasies. I mean, right?
And nightmares.
Yes. But Nightmares for you are fantasy, right?
That is true.
You don't really draw a line between like good dreams and bad dreams. Like the worse they are, the better they are. It's like
All right, tell the truth. On Christmas as a kid, did you ever receive a murder? Because I'm thinking that would just be like the best thing ever.
Have I put to my letter to Santa? Did I ask him to murder somebody? Maybe
I don't
once
know.
or
Like
twice.
somebody who really cares would, slaughter something in front of you.
I don't want to be.
Or restrain them in a prison, chains, shackles.
I prefer crippling. I want my enemies to live with their consequences.
There you go. Oh, all right.
So I just have a question. Before our guest comes on, do we want to have any spontaneous discussions about anything at all?
I have a question too. Dave, do you hate it when Sean prompts the ad read?
Well, I didn't know if that was getting taken care of is all, and I didn't want to put our guests through that.
How nice of you.
All right.
I like putting our guests through that personally.
Oh my God!
I don't mind it when we already know them. Like I don't mind if we already like Ed. That's fine. He'll roll with it.
Okay. He'll roll with the punches. Okay. So out of the blue, spontaneously,
yes.
I'm looking across my monitor at my bookshelf. They all have covers. Wow. Where would I get a good book cover?
Well, you can ask Santa, when he's done murdering people. Could you also get a book cover?
One book cover and one slaughter.
and he might come through on one of those. That's all I'll say. That's all I can say. But you're better off going to 99 Designs, 99designs.com/SPP. While they won't murder people,
what is this 99 Designs that you speak of?
They have designers waiting to do book covers, website work, pretty much anything that you want designed, they can do. They won't design a murder. I've asked, they won't. They refuse.
Will they perform a murder?
No, they won't. They're weird like that. No, they only do designs. It's some technical clause thing. I don't know.
Upstanding folks.
But they stick to what they do well, and what they do well is book covers and web work and print design, banners, pretty much anything you need. And
if you aren't any good at murder, you really shouldn't do it. So I do get behind this.
Well, if they offered murder, you couldn't get a power pack upgrade with that, could you?
99murders.com. The power pack upgrade removes all evidence from the scene.
I would get the power pack upgrade.
you pretty much you'd have to.
So what's the process like of getting a book cover then from these folks?
The process for 99 Designs is simple as simple can be. You come up with your idea for a book cover. You maybe show them some other covers that you like. Hey, this is what I'd like it to look like. This is the genre it's in. This is the title. And designers will compete to bring the best designs to you, and it's like a contest, and you choose who wins or who goes to. It's 2 rounds. Who goes to the next round, and you choose. You can get your readers to help you choose in the process too, and that's fun of it. Part of it, because a lot of times it's a good way of subliminally telling your readers that this book is coming out and getting them excited about it. Hey, you get to help me choose a book cover, and a lot of people like doing that. And you get them involved in the contest, and they help choose a cover, and then you decide from the covers that you have left in the contest in the second round, and then you go to the final round, and that's when you and the designer work one-on-one to nail it down, to get the perfect book cover design. We've used them several times, have been happy with them. Several of our listeners have emailed us to say that they've used them, and they love the covers. It's really helped their book sales. It's awesome. And the best part is you have absolutely nothing to lose.
So start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP. Use that link. You get the free power pack upgrade valued at $99, which will get you more designer time and attention. What would you say the chances are that if 99 Designs ever listens to our ad reads that we'll lose our sponsorship?
Oh,
100%. Yeah.
They're gonna send an email. What do you mean murdering people in ayahuasca? What the hell?
They're not murdering people. Let's be clear about that. No murder.
Not that we know of. Not that we know of.
Well, anything can happen, but it's certainly nothing official.
I'm sure with that many designers that they have, one of them must have murdered someone, right?
Well, no. I think that they purged those people. The murders are being done elsewhere. What's kind of fun, by the way, guys, is go find who else has 99 Designs ads, and go listen to one of them. Go listen to another podcast with a 99 Designs ad. It's like culture shock. You kind of won't know what to do.
This is so professional.
I would miss it though. Like if I heard a regular ad read, it would sound so sterile.
Yes, I would agree with this.
Nobody's ever
statement.
accused us of being sterile. Well,
Wow.
never mind.
All right, so do you want to talk about that local sports team until James arrives?
Yeah, I kind of don't know where to go because I don't want to start something in
Yeah,
the
I don't want to start a
middle of
conversation.
it.
Dave, are you sure you can't think of anything cool? You want to talk about Fallout at all? Because you can always do that, right?
Yeah, I'm very excited to play Fallout 4. Oh, I finished Life is Strange, that video game.
Oh, how was it?
Awesome. I think the ending will. There's two possible endings that the one that the story has, and one of them feels rushed, and a lot of people like trashed it in the Reddit threads on how that ending just didn't feel good. The other ending I thought was awesome. I won't give anything away, but it's a great story. I highly recommend it.
Dave, what is your Oh, I won't ask that question because James just joined us.
We don't have
Look
to
at that.
vamp anymore. James is here now.
Oh, here he is. Hey,
Perfect
James.
timing.
Hey,
Welcome
guys.
to the show, James Altucher. It's nice to meet you officially.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I feel like we've kind of known each other for years, but never connected.
Yeah, no, this
Well,
is
that's
really
because of the restraining orders against me, and they've now been lifted, I'm glad to say.
Yeah.
I've called the court and cleared you. We're at least good for Google Hangouts.
Thank
Yes.
you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, James is a great guest, even though he's been here a minute. But we know he's going to be a great guest because there's so many intersections in just I think the way we think, which I love. I think the first person to clue me into how awesome James was Kamal a couple of years ago, and he's like, you got to meet James. He's just awesome. And we got one of those emails where, hey, James meet Sean meet James, and like those always make me uncomfortable. Like I don't know what to do with those. And
I know it's interesting because it's like one of those things where okay, I want to do this, but like this second I can't, and then it gets like kind of lost in the lost among all the emails.
yeah, and it's so easy to. And then I've had Choose Yourself for like 90 years or however long ago you wrote it, but I never read it. And then just recently I read it, and then I thought this is awesome. And then I read Choose Yourself Stories, which I really liked.
I'm glad you said that because that is my all-time favorite piece of writing. I never marketed it. Nobody ever mentions it, but that's my favorite.
I love it. And you know what?
I'm reading it right now. Do I get any points for that?
It's 5 points.
Kiss
All right.
ass.
No, I am. I can show you my Kindle.
There's this I love the writing style in there. Your voice is very strong. It's very unique. It's very distinctive, and there's this one story in there that I love. It made me feel so sad, like in the perfect way. It's the story about the party where there's the chess game going on in one room.
Oh yeah.
And the part where the old guy is in there and the young girl's just like she catches you watching and so she's kissing him but she's looking up at the ceiling before then. There's just that scene is so heartbreaking to me, and I loved it. I just thought that was a great story.
It was both. That was a weird party. There was like a chess tournament happening where like literally the U.S. chess champion was playing, and then 3 feet away there were about 6 live sex shows happening. And it was the weirdest party I'd ever been to. But it was one of those like .com things. Like, do you remember pseudo.com with like Josh Harris? It was like one of his parties, and it was just it was an insane time.
It sounds like it.
Well, I never go to parties. Now I know what I'm missing out on.
Well, parties particularly in like 1999. That was the key.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But Dave hasn't left his basement since 1997.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. But anyway, the message of Choose Yourself is just so much the message of our podcast, and that you got to have faith and stop asking for permission, and welcome like your harmony here.
Well. Thank you for having me on. And even though I'm your guest, I'm going to say you're my guest also because I have questions for you.
Oh!
Well, that's great. That really lubricates the conversation.
So here's people always ask me, James, I have my first book published. What's the best way to market it? And I tell them, and this is basically what I've seen from your stuff and from your book on self-publishing. Write the next book.
Yes.
That is the best way to market the first book.
Yeah,
So
I
people
couldn't agree with that more.
stop at one book.
Yeah, well, that's because a lot of writers they see publishing as like some kind of finish line, right? Oh, I'm gonna write my book, and everything's gonna change, and the bluebirds are gonna come out of the trees and just start singing, and it's gonna be rainbows, and that's not it. I think writing the book is the start of something and not the end of something. Like, okay, well now I've got a book out there. What's next?
It's a
Well,
job.
and also you guys challenge the definition, which as you should, of what a book is. Like everybody used to think, okay, a book is 250 pages because that's what the publishers want to put in the bookstores. It's a 250-page book. But with Amazon, a book could be 30 pages or 50 pages or 80 pages. Like, it doesn't matter as long as it's part of maybe in the case of some of your things like a bigger series, or it's what don't try to force your book to be in a cookie cutter model.
Yeah, I don't think it's one unit of information or entertainment. It's not, what the publishing industry has said it needs to be for a couple hundred years, because things need to sit on a shelf in a certain way. And I love that. I love how many choices we have.
Yeah, no.
Like how many books have you guys written?
Oh my God.
I think collectively.
Actually, the perfect way to answer this is exactly what you just said. Like, how do you define it? If we're talking about, like, Sean and Dave used to release episodes of serials, and then we'd have the full season as well. I think of it in terms of words, but as to how it's chopped up, sometimes that's arbitrary. I mean, I would say between the three of us, 5 or 6, maybe 6 or 7 million words, honestly, all told.
Yeah, I would say, because some things are smaller units, there'll be like 6 smaller, tiny books that make a big book.
Western to one.
Right, that's a good example. But I can say that we have completely gone through our whole entire catalog this year, and commissioned new covers for every single title. Which some are real small books, but every single title that has a new cover, and that's been over 100 covers. So
wow.
That's how many units are out there.
So it's certainly very different from, let's say, Ernest Hemingway, where each book really is an event, like a major event. Oh my gosh, Ernest Hemingway has a new book out. It's an event. Or even more recently, like whatever the best author of the day is.
Stephen King.
Stephen King is an event, but Stephen King is also massively prolific as well. Like,
yeah.
How many books has that guy written?
94,000.
No, he's a slacker. He only writes 1 or 2 a year.
Right. Well, and then then there's the James Frey's Full Fathom 5. He just announced he's putting out a book a week. Which is also an interesting model.
Yeah, that's what we did in 2012, Sean and I, with our serials. It was 1 book a week, and that
very
was
hard to sustain.
Crazy, insane time.
How many words? I mean, I know this is the typical question, but how many words a day were you writing?
I don't know, but each week was about 25,000 words published. Sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less.
Yeah, so those are written, but also edited and polished and sanded down, every single week, and it was grueling. Like, it was very, very grueling.
I like
never
that.
again.
I like that though.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I love the craftsman mentality of that. That it's not that you go in and you wait for an event. It's that you go into your workshop every day and you create, and that's what you do. And it's not. You're not sitting there waiting for a parade with every book. You're just going to do it again, and it's that you're creating this body of work, and you're thinking about legacy and like how much work can we create and how many people can we touch through everything that we do, instead of, well, here's my book for the year. Which to me, that I would be too bored. I couldn't write 1 book a year. I would be bored.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I'm the same way. I get as soon as a book's finished, I kind of want to publish the next book the next week. So it's, but it's like I tell people, if you write 1,000 words a day, which is not incredibly difficult, like you can easily build up to that with practice. That's 365,000 words a year. That's like 6 novels or 6 books a year you could write, and that's not inconceivable.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, for us,
how many paragraphs is 1,000 words? It's not even that many pages.
Yeah, I typically I'm somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 words a day, depending. Johnny's a bit quicker than me. Sean kind of varies, so yeah.
Sean's been being more of a showrunner.
I'm about 1,500 to 2,000, between 1,500 and 3,000 words a day. I don't know what my average is.
What I like about all of this, though, is that there kind of are no rules. Like that seems like kind of the definition of the like choose yourself means choose. You know, you're not gonna. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, since that's your thing, but it's not like I'm gonna obey any particular set of rules. Because the old way said you need to ask for permission. You need to do one book a year, and then there are people that are like, well, if I take you guys as as the gospel, then I need to produce thousands of books in a few years or something like that.
That's very true, because some people write a book because it's their business card. They want to show that they have credentials in their industry. While other people write books because they want to create a career writing hundreds of books. And you look at like Hugh Howey. How many books did he write before he wrote Wool Part 1, which was going to be a standalone 80-page novella, and then he got some traction on it. This was like his 10th book, and he ended up creating the Wool Omnibus, which is now going to be a movie, and so on. Like that's how things happen.
Yeah.
And Hugh didn't even think that was gonna. He said he thought it was too dark. He didn't see why anyone would ever pick that book up. When he was on our show, he was like, I was really surprised to see that people were suddenly buying that.
Yeah, and also if you think about it, Wool 1 was really different from Wool 2, 3, 4. Like it was a different book.
Mm-hmm.
So but he just kept going.
The first Wool is my favorite. Like, not that he peaked there or anything, but there's just so much intrigue and mystery, and you kind of wonder what's going on, and I love that. I wanted less answers, not more. Like the more we knew about the world, the less the mystery disappeared, and I love that first one. But you can kind of feel he wrote it as this self-contained thing that wasn't supposed to be as big as it got.
If you think about it, like TV works like how, let's say, you guys work. Like take the series Lost, for instance. That's like every episode was like a book, but they had to do hundreds of episodes, and they never answered any question.
That's always been our model. Is we do well, not on all of our stuff, but it's certainly how Dave and I started, and Johnny and I did that with the Beam and a few other things for sure, where we think like showrunners. We like TV a lot. We don't think that there's anything wrong with TV. We think we're in a golden age of TV. We're TV junkies. Yeah. we love that.
What are your favorite shows right now?
Oh man,
I'm watching Sense8 right now.
Sense8's great. I don't know. I've completed a bunch of stuff lately, and I'm in the middle of a bunch of stuff lately. What I just started is Transparent on Amazon. Have you seen that?
I gotta watch. I watched Catastrophe on Amazon, which I thought was very good.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I saw that. I thought that was great. Man, I really like Orange Is the New Black. I thought that show was great. I just finished Narcos on Netflix. Of course, Breaking Bad is a gold standard. Like that's just a great show. I don't know. I
like The Walking Dead. What do you call it? I like Person of Interest, although that has up and down seasons. This year, I like Limitless, Blind Spot, and Quantico. I think they all have like mysteries to them that are pretty good.
I like Limitless. I'm watching that now.
Yeah. I've been rewatching the Sci-Fi Channel Battlestar Galactica, which is one of my favorites.
Love Battlestar.
One of the best shows. I've watched that whole series 4 times. Like one of the best shows in history, along with Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I agree. It is just so good. The Sopranos I've been kind of itching to watch again, and then just not watch the last couple seasons. But those first few seasons, I loved so much, and I haven't seen them since I don't know when was that, the 90s? Like
yeah,
it's pretty old now. I haven't seen them since they were new.
I'm almost worried The Sopranos might have aged. You know, like that feeling when, like, I love Star Wars, but you know that feeling like, okay, you watched it when you were a little kid, and then now you watch it and you realize. Yeah. Mark Hamill is the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, he's way better as the Joker than as Luke Skywalker.
He's our guest next week.
Hi, Mark.
James, can you talk about voice? Because one of the things that stands out about the way you write is you have a very unique writing voice to the point where it's kind of like eccentric. And I've heard people say like, man, you like you won't believe some of the things that this guy writes about, and just finding your audience in that because I think that when you have a really unique voice, some people are like, well, that's really just too weird for me. So talk about some?
I want to cut in there before he answers and say when I first heard about him and I was reading articles and stuff, I felt like I was like what I liked about Howard Stern's show, like how honest it was and how he just said anything and really didn't worry about the fallout, and I like that about your stuff.
The funny thing is, a lot of people think so. So I do write in a very what I consider a very honest, vulnerable voice because I sort of feel. Think of it this way: everyone's got a basement, and in the basement, you don't know what you're going to find. You're going to
Dave
find
keeps children in his.
Yeah, but yeah, you're gonna find the dead bodies. You're gonna find like maggots. You're gonna find memories. You're gonna find things that you've treasured for years, and we all have that. And so that's where I write from, as opposed to writing from my dining room table with all my nice fixtures, where many other writers write from. So I kind of feel I always have to be writing from that basement that we can all relate to. But people also think that automatically means I don't care what anybody thinks. And the reality is, when people say, "Oh my God, James is the worst human being on earth," like that sometimes hurts my feelings.
I'm sorry, I was drunk when I said that.
Yeah, but you've got to really admire the courage it takes to write from your soul and not worry about writing something that seems so tailored and so manufactured to please everybody, right? Like there's nothing. I mean, your writing has a precision to it, but it's not tailored. Those are different things, and you say exactly what you mean, but what you mean isn't out there to please everybody, and that's just so respectable because a lot of people are trying so hard to sound like somebody else, or they're afraid to sound like their most true self, and you just clearly don't.
Yeah, because I think there's this genre of like internet writing, and here's what the genre looks like. I'm going to stand on a pedestal and write the 10 best ways to stand out in a room so you could be a leader. And I'm not going to tell anybody where I'm from. I'm not going to tell anybody how I learned these things or when I was like on the floor and had no clue what I was doing. I'm just going to teach from my pedestal. And that is, as you guys know, that's just not real writing. That's like lecturing and preaching, and it's not very interesting. So I like to say, I don't know what's going to work for anybody else. Here's what I did. So this is autobiographical. And then if you want to, and I'll put the title, 10 Things to Be a Leader or whatever, but if you want to try this, it's up to you. This is just what I did.
This is going to sound like such a press release sort of a question, but since we're talking about choosing yourself for writers, how are some ways that writers can choose themselves better, especially indies?
Well, so when I say choose yourself, a lot of people initially thought, okay, I read the book Choose Yourself, and I'm going to quit my job tomorrow and choose myself. And that's not really what happens. What happens is, first you have to kind of clean the deck. So you have to be physically. This is what happened to me. I was like totally dead broke, out on the ground, lost house, lost family, lost friends, lost job, lost everything. And I had to say, look, this is not working for me. Like, I'm not taking care of myself physically. I'm not taking care of myself emotionally. Like, I'm not being around people who love and respect me and vice versa. I'm not taking care of myself creatively. Like, I have all these ideas, but I'm doing nothing about them. And I'm not taking care of myself spiritually, meaning instead of being anxious and regretful all the time, I should be more grateful. And so that's really choosing yourself on the inside. And then what happens is you start to now take advantage of these ideas because you're not sick in bed. You can be more creative, and you have people who are emotionally supporting you, and you don't waste time on anxiety, which doesn't solve any of tomorrow's problems, but drains energy from today. And so then choosing yourself as a writer means I can now say, okay, I'm going to write things down. I'm going to post them wherever I want to post them. I'm going to do whatever I want to do with them in terms of repackaging them as a book or writing a book starting from scratch. And I'm going to write whatever book I want because no one can stop me. So think about it. Think about a publisher. You have to go to an agent and you have to convince them. Then you have to write a proposal. Then you have to make a deal. Then the publisher picks your cover. Then the publisher says, we know how to do the marketing for you. Then the publisher edits out your opinions on I don't know, climate change. And then, they do all sorts of things. And then they say, okay, we know how to market you to our list because we have a strong brand. Oh my God, Penguin does not have any brand. Like, what is a Penguin book? Like they kept telling me we have a really strong brand, and it was just ridiculous. Like, I can't tell you what a Penguin book is, so maybe it has a penguin on it. I don't know.
It's one that has to migrate 70 miles to the ocean.
Right, exactly. Like, so self-publishing, once you get over that self-psychological stigma of, oh, is this like vanity publishing? No, it's not. It's actually an extremely successful way to build a career as a writer. Now suddenly you've moved around the gatekeepers that were taking all of your money and all of your time and all of your life, and now you've just chosen yourself to basically achieve your life's dream of being a successful writer. Like, look at you guys. You're the epitome of, oh, look at my word, epitome. You're the epitome of choosing yourself to be a writer.
So is there any circumstance where you would want to take a traditional deal, like you would do it as a portfolio move? Like, there's this publisher and they can offer me this very specific set of criteria that therefore justifies my decision, and I'm still choosing myself.
Yes. So after I published my first 5 books with publishers. Then I self-published 3 books, the third of which was Choose Yourself. And then publishers were calling me and saying, hey, can you do your next book with us? And I kept saying no. But then one publisher called me, and I thought to myself 2 things. A, they really do have this publisher was. Oh, one second.
I'll tell anecdotes while James is
dealing with my dog Molly. Hello, I love you, and Claudia will take care. So, all right. So I went to Hay House, who called me, and I don't know if you know, Hay House is kind of like a new age personal development publisher, and I figured, okay, out of all the publishers, they probably do have actually a brand. Like, if I think of someone as a Hay House author, I know a little bit what that means, and so I figured their list, they had we all know the importance of a list. They have a 2 million person list. And they have these huge conferences. So I figured, okay, this is interesting to me. And not only that, I figured, okay, my wife, I'll bring her on as co-author of the book so she could have the experience of being published by a traditional publisher, and we'll see what happens. And it really didn't turn out any differently than any other publisher, and probably turned out worse than self-publishing. So that was the end. And I have publishers literally calling like every week, and agents calling, and the only valid response is, I'm going to misquote Charlton Heston in Planet of the Apes, take your dirty, stinking hands out of my wallet. Like, with all that you could say to a publisher in general.
Yeah, I have a good friend who is published with Hay House, and his book is coming out next year, and he signed 2 years ago, and they've gone through like 7 drafts.
That's a fast track.
Yeah, and they keep sending him like notes on this, but they've changed like, I don't know, 4 different people along the way, so he'll get a new person who gives him totally different notes than the last person, and he's like, I don't even remember the book. I wrote it 2 years ago, and I'm totally disconnected to it, and now I'm not excited. And it's funny how different that process is than the way we all do it, which is just we go into the lab, we put stuff in beakers, we watch the frothing thing, and then we have our compound. And this is just it's so different.
Well, and it's interesting. And we're talking about writing, but we could be talking about anything. Like, we could be talking about music. We could be talking about TV shows. Like, some of the most successful people I know have millions of followers on YouTube channels. So rather than make a TV show of 3-minute videos that they would do, which is there's no reason why a video has to be 22 minutes and be watched from 7 to 7:30 at night or whatever. So many successful people are on YouTube making their music, making their art, making their videos. We happen to do it through our self-publishing venues, but this is the new world. And look at the most successful books out there. 50 Shades of Grey was self. I mean, you know all this, and it's probably been on your podcast a million times. But 50 Shades of Grey was self-published. The Martian, Wool, all these great books were self-published, and they're like the best books in the world out there right now.
You know that
Except for Europe.
the funny thing to me about all of this is the publishers claim that they can get your books in the hands of people, and they can to some extent, like the bookstores and stuff that are harder for indies to get into. But if you look at the success stories in indie publishing, these are people like us that are going out and finding our own fans, and this is something that publishers are mystified by. They're like, how did 50 Shades become this thing? We couldn't have built this thing. No, an author did on their own. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and she was great about it. She was well known in both the Twilight community, the online community, and the self-publishing community. Same as Amanda Hocking was like well known in her communities. You guys, of course, are well known in your online communities. There's many opportunities for people to build at least that first 1,000 readers, and then from there you build up. You build your list, you build your community, you build your fan base, you build your readers. It's all up to you. You know, with publishers, here's a typical deal I do from self-publishing, and maybe you do the same thing. I'll bundle my books into other people's email lists, and maybe I'll write like special unique things for their email list, and then we set the pricing on the bundle, and now I'm able to reach out and suddenly in a weekend an extra 300,000 people on so-and-so's email list, and that's an email list that actually is loyal to to the list owner, as opposed to Penguin's list. They're like, Penguin who? Like, why am I getting this email? So, you know, and I'm making fun of Penguin, actually. You want to know why I'm making fun of Penguin? Can I tell you a 2-minute story?
Yes, I would love to know why you're making.
Yes, I want to know this.
Okay, so a friend of mine Penguin is pitching her, oh, you should publish your book with Penguin. They didn't know at the time, actually, that she was dating me. And they said to her, well, we just published James Altucher's book, and we gave him a great amount of publicity. And she said, oh, really? I didn't know about that. Will you tell me what publicity you gave James Altucher? And they said, well, we got CNBC to cover his book. We got the Financial Times to review his book, major newspaper, and we got the Street.com with millions of visitors to do an excerpt of his book. And she said, oh, that's really great. And so she calls me up and tells them what they said, and I'm like, Diane, I have a column in the Financial Times, and as a joke, I reviewed my own book. I have a weekly segment every Tuesday afternoon on CNBC, and they let me talk about my book in my own segment, and I owned part of the Street.com, so I made them excerpt my book in the Street.com. And that was the publicity that Penguin, the largest publisher in the world, got for me.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, I know somebody who was published by Penguin, and he was showing me when his book was coming out. He was sending me marketing materials, and he's like, "Are you kidding with this?" And it was like suggestions for like buy this blog tour package.
Oh my god!
And like really, like a blog tour package? Like we recommend. I mean, if you're in romance, a blog tour package is a very smart idea, but for most genres, no. Like it doesn't make sense. So yeah, it's really funny the disconnect. Anyone want to tell the CJ story? Because I think that's a great story.
I was actually just thinking about that. So CJ Lyons, I don't know if you know CJ, but yeah. She was on our show, and she told a story about where she went into to her publisher. She's hybrid. She does some that's self-published and some that's traditional.
And less traditional all the time.
Right, exactly, because And so she went in and she said, well, I think we should do some things to directly reach my readers. And they said, CJ, we don't know who your readers are. Like we work with distributors. Like how would we possibly know who your end user readers are that buy from the various outlets? And she said, well, they're right here. And she pulled something like out of her purse or something dramatically and had these stats. They were just mystified by like, how would you possibly know it? I asked them, I talked to them, and they were just mind blown. So it's just like, isn't that what they're supposed to do? Isn't that their part of the job?
So this is all a great point. And okay, so we've thoroughly emasculated or categorized the publishing industry. They're awful. I hope everyone listening to this knows that you can make a lot more money and sell more copies. You might not you'll never make the New York Times bestseller list, or maybe you will. but you could sell more copies and make a lot more money and have a much happier career self-publishing. So now, self-publishing, how great is it? Let's talk positive.
Well, actually, I'll start by saying that I know a bunch of people who've made New York Times and USA Today as self-publishers. So you can do that.
But
How
it is hard. It is harder, and for nonfiction, they pick what they want. Like I think the point he's making is that they change the rules, right?
Yeah, they do, and it's a curated list. That's what a lot of people don't realize. Is it's not like gross number totals.
You know, the New York Times is I would have crushed it on my last book, and the New York Times is totally curated. They just didn't like me. Meanwhile, I hit the Wall Street Journal list, the USA Today list, everything, and all the books that I beat on these other lists were in the 1 through 10 on the New York Times list, and I was nowhere to be seen. Totally curated.
Yeah. Public shout out randomly to Jana Aston, who is you may know her as J.A. Huss, Julie Huss's assistant, who she now published her first book called Wrong, and it hit number 6 on the New York Times bestseller right out of the gate. First book, number 6 on the New York Times.
Her first book.
It's astonishing. So congratulations to Jana. But that's
now the fact that it was about a virgin and a gynecologist may or may not have helped, but
I would think that would hurt you for New York Times. James, was yours about a virgin and a gynecologist? Because maybe this is the problem.
No, that's going to be my next book.
Anyone want to write a book called? Sorry, James, go ahead.
Well, it's so funny. About 20 years ago, my older sister wrote a magazine article interviewing male gynecologists, like, why do you do what you do? And so I should call her up and give her this example. Like, she should turn that article into a novel now.
There you go.
There's a niche, apparently.
But back to your point, I think it really is for self-publishing. It's a few things. One, you're able to create your own audience. 2, you are able to deliver to your audience on your schedule. You can write books faster and you can get it to them. With publishers, there's all these things that you have to wait for, and there's all these just things that they get wrong and how they can't market to people. I think those are the 2 strongest things. We're able to build our own audience and cater to that audience, and that to me is what makes it great. And we get to connect with our audience. Like, I get to hear from my readers, what they like or what they didn't like, and it's an amazing thing, because when I was a kid in like middle school and high school, I didn't have many friends, so I retreated into my world and wrote my stories, and I dreamed of the day that I would be able to, write stories and get them out to people. And I always thought I could, but, as I got older, I was like, well, maybe I can't, because, it's impossible to get a publishing deal. And I saw these, stories of people that, that just weren't getting it done. And until Amazon came along with a Kindle and really just changed everything. And at that moment, it was like, we can do this. Sean and I were actually doing freelance writing work, getting paid pretty damn well for it, and we decided to, quote, choose yourself. We decided to stop taking to stop taking the freelance work and actually write our own stuff, to invest in ourselves. And it was a big gamble, and it was scary as hell, but it paid off because we were able to build and find our own audience, and that it's just amazing that you can do that these days.
And one thing I want to say that's really important, and I've been through your podcast, and I want to make sure I can say something that's different than you've had so many good guests and good podcasts and a lot of valuable information. But one thing you guys do, and one thing that I do, and I think successful self-publishers do it in general. There's anecdotes all over the place, but one thing we do is we very professionally self-publish. This is not like you take a Microsoft Word document and throw it up on Amazon or Smashwords or whatever and say you're a published writer. Like I hired a great designer, and I split tested, maybe 10 different covers. I split tested 10 different titles and subtitles. I hired a great interior designer to design the inside. I probably had 5 editors, and then I hired a marketing agency. And then I did extreme marketing, particularly for Choose Yourself, because I carved out that audience. Like, I marketed the hell out of that, and it was more than I ever would have done, or any publisher would have ever done for me. Like, I professionally self-published.
Yeah, and that's a really, really essential point there, because not because everybody can publish doesn't mean that everybody should. And if you don't treat it like a business, if you don't treat it seriously, if you're not willing to, invest in yourself, it's not just choosing in yourself, it's investing in yourself. It's taking the time to develop a quality product, but you also need the follow through. You need to have professional packaging, right? And that is your editing and your cover and your formatting and then your outreach. What happens after the fact? How do you speak to your audience? And all of that is so important, and that's a really good point, because it isn't enough to just get it up there.
And just generally treating it like a business. It's amazing the number of people that will bitch about spending $40 on Scrivener or something like that, and it's like,
I gotta pay for editing? What the hell?
Right? Are you kidding me? Some of the things that people complain about, and it's like, this is a tool that you're going to use every day. So yeah, you got to be pro.
People listening to this might say, "Oh, well, that sounds like you spent a lot of money." But look, like you say, it's a business. So a business, you often make an investment in yourself, and so part of that is money. But it doesn't have to be that much. Like, you could get 10 designs off of Fiverr for not that much, and then split test them to know what people. Meaning, I put up Facebook ads of every cover, and I just kept track of what covers were people clicking on the most, and so. That was very cheap. I spent maybe $20 per cover, so per ad, that sort of thing could be. You could do it very cheap, and then as you build an audience and as you make more money from writing, then you could spend a little bit more money and really go at it, even more professionally. But like you say, it's a business and requires building up, and it takes time. Like, you build in the communities. Like, you guys were all over the online self-publishing communities and publishing communities and fiction communities. Like, that takes time and effort and a lot of love too in what you do.
So,
go ahead, Dave.
Well, mine's unrelated, so if you have something related, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just actually go ahead, because I'll just ramble. Go.
Okay. Well, about you and your story, you basically, like, you were down and out and a few times, and it's.
Yes.
What advice do you have to people that are in that position where they just feel like they're at the bottom, they're lost, and they don't know where to go next? How do you find that inner strength to just push on and go forward? Because that's very difficult to do, and then to rise back to the top like that. How do you do that with all the self-doubt and all the fear that you must have? Because I know you said don't worry about the anxiety, but when you've lost everything, you must be afraid to take chances and lose more. I would guess. I don't know.
I mean, I'll even say this with my 13-year-old daughter sitting right over there. I was Googling, like, all the different ways to kill myself. Like, I lost my family, house, money, everything. And I was trying to figure out, is there a way I could kill myself where the insurance company wouldn't know, so that at least my kids could get the insurance policy?
By the way,
and
insurance investigators will probably look for that on your computer. So, but go ahead.
Although then I realized I had the kind of policy where after 1 year it didn't matter, so didn't worry about it. But I was too chicken. And by the way, there is no way to safely do it. I should just add that for safety purposes. There is no, like, you could shoot yourself, like, in the mouth, and you could end up just blind and deaf and brain damaged for the rest of your life, and it's not fun. So anyway, enough morbidity.
Never enough for Dave. There's never enough for Dave.
And then I did another thing, which is I was feeling really lonely, so I did what any person in my position would do, is I put an ad on Craigslist. And I said, I'm a psychic. I said I had a brain injury, and when I woke up from my coma, I realized I was psychic, and I'm willing to answer any questions from anybody. And so immediately I got, like, hundreds of emails, and I eliminated, all the emails from men and just responded to the emails from women. And I really had a fun time. Of course, I admitted to most of these people that I wasn't psychic or whatever, but I really had a fun time answering all these questions. And it's funny, just as an aside, I was talking to my mom about it, like, a few months later, and told her what I did. And she said, a very reasonable question. She asked me, "Well, did you fuck any of them?" And
it's a reasonable query.
And I said, Mom, of course not. Have you looked at me lately? And but one thing I really had to start doing was, again, ask myself what worked on the way up. And because this happened many times, I kept making money and not keeping it. I kept going broke. I kept making it, going broke, making it, going broke, making it, going broke. And I kept saying, what's working on the way up and what's not working on the way down? And it's what I was said before. I had to just every day forget about tomorrow or yesterday. Just every day check the box. Am I doing a little bit better on my physical health, on who I'm emotionally spending time with, on my creativity? Am I writing every day? Am I writing down 10 ideas a day? And am I grateful for what I have? Just a tiny bit better every day. And that's what really, from dead broke, gave me hope and got me out of the hole. Because then when you start writing ideas down every day, you get excited about them and you feel healthier and you feel energized to tell the people who now you're emotionally spending more time with, and they get excited. And then you write a book and people say, yeah, you should write that, and you get excited about what you're writing and you get excited about different businesses. And bit by bit, you climb out of that hole. You can't climb out of it in one day, but it happens over time. And I've written this a bunch of times, and I wrote it in Choose Yourself, and I've now gotten the response from people who have read the book, and it's just phenomenal. I mean, I have a desk right in front of me. It's filled with, like, people just, like, literally send me gifts. Sometimes they send me cash with, like, no return address. I don't know what to do with these gifts. But, like, it helps. This one simple, almost corny idea of making a Craigslist ad and then doing all these other things seems to help people, and I'm grateful for that. But for me, I also enjoy then realizing I don't have to care about what everybody else thinks about me, and I can just write these things and start to publish and find my own success instead of depending on anybody else for my success or my validation.
Well,
Okay.
I know.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I know we have to wrap up, but I see a neat way to kind of tie this, and I think that everything that James is saying about life and the business here, there are intersections. We've been talking all year about iteration and optimization, right? And I think that life and business are both the same that way. You can't expect to do everything perfectly the first time. That's never going to happen, and it's an unreasonable expectation to set on yourself. But if you think of life as iterative and you start small and you just make incremental changes and it's about the decision. I'm going to choose myself, and that's going to be really hard at first, but I'm going to make these small adjustments and changes, but I'm going to be consistent and constant about them. Little things really do add up to monumental stuff if you give it enough time to mature.
It's true. It's just like exercising. Like, Stephen King wrote about this on writing. When he had an accident, I guess he had like a bike accident, or no, he was walking while reading.
By the van.
He was hit, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and so he was up in bed for like 6 months, and then he started writing again. And so here's like one of the most successful commercial authors ever. He said he couldn't put two words together. Like, he had lost the ability essentially to write because he was out of practice. So all of these other things like gratitude and emotional health and physical health and creativity, these are all muscles which you can't expect to be like overnight, like, hey, I'm like the best writer in the world, or I'm the most healthy person in the world. You have to kind of practice and build up. And it's the same thing with publishing. Like, now you guys have, I don't know, whatever you said it was, 100 books out there. Well, there was a time when you had your first book out and it probably sucked and didn't get any sellers or buyers. And now across a whole, you've got practically like created a genre, and now you're selling and like making money and doing well and enjoying yourselves, and it's great.
All right, so that's probably a really good point to wrap up on. Everybody should check out Choose Yourself. James, what else?
Actually, I want to say check out Choose Yourself stories too, because just for storytelling, it's a little bit different.
They really are fun, and they're fast. You know what I mean? It's kind of addictive reading. I'm usually not susceptible to that, but there was it was late at night and I was like, okay, I'll just finish this. And then the next one was How I Captured Osama bin Laden. And I was like, well, I guess I need to read that, right? And then I don't remember what the next one was, but I think it was the same sort of thing where I was like, well,
yeah, they
okay,
have
I
great
guess I gotta read that one.
titles, and there's just something very real to the writing. And I would look, I mean, if you could only read one probably choose yourself, but whatever. For me, it'd be stories. I really like stories.
Let me ask you a question. Can I ask you guys for advice?
Absolutely.
Okay, so those books are all, I mean, those stories in that, and in Choose Yourself, are all nonfiction, meaning they happen to me, and they're autobiographical, and they're raw, as you say, and they're like, in some cases, painful. Well, there's only so many stories about your past you can write. It's not like I'm going to write 85 books about my past, because there's not that many stories in a lifetime. But what do you do when... and for fiction, it's a little different, because you could kind of slice personal stories in different ways in a fictional way. But how would you recommend? Like, I love that style of Choose Yourself stories, but again, there's only so many ways you can slice your past for that kind of rawness. Like, how would you recommend? And I am starting to write fiction, actually. My first one's going to come out, and I hope to do 100 more after that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just start putting it into fiction, but I don't know if that answered your question, because that would be my recommendation. Just start spinning a bigger yarn, is all.
Yeah.
And
No, that's great advice, and I'm going to do that.
And more things will happen to you, over the course of years. You'll always have a full.
Not a lot of people have that Craigslist story, so I would argue that your well personal experience is probably deeper than a lot of people's. So.
Right, but I'm not going to do that Craigslist story again. Is the thing that period of my life?
You have other odd things.
Yeah, you'll have other stuff. You're just a guy who's
saying, right?
Yeah, you let life happen to you, and because of that, you're always going to have one. Now, can you have a Choose Yourself stories every year? No, but you can have one every several years. And in the meantime, you can just write fiction. Like, you have a voice to tell stories. So I would just start making them up, and you'll pull stuff from your life. I know we need to close, so I'll just say this.
I'm going to interrupt. You could just self-destruct again and build your way back up. And have a story.
No, that's terrible advice, Dave. Shut up. Don't listen to Dave.
I need to do that. I need to totally screw everything up again.
No, do not listen to Dave. I was talking. My wife Cindy about this earlier today, and this is a very recurring theme. But my favorite thing about being a writer, and there's a lot of them. But my very favorite thing is how much better I know myself than I did several years ago. Because, writing is looking in the mirror. It's emotionally, even in fiction, right? It's not nonfiction.
I get that every time I write a draft.
Right. We're building these worlds. We're inventing characters. We're giving them things to say. We're putting them in situations and getting them out. We're making them want things and then taking those things away and making them hurt and love and ache. And I think the more you write, the more you know yourself. And I don't even think that's true for nonfiction. I think it's very true for fiction. And I think as you clearly put your soul into everything you do, and I think you will write fantastic fiction that you will love as much as your readers.
Yeah, I think Mitch Albom proved that. I mean, the sports writer, he's written some stories that have touched a lot of people, and I don't know if you're going anywhere close to that direction, but that market's definitely out there.
Yeah, no, well, thank you for the advice, and thanks for having me on your excellent podcast. I'm huge fans of you guys, so this is great.
Well, please stick around after I don't hang up. I'm just going to close the show, but don't go anywhere. So thanks for listening to the Self-Publishing Podcast, guys, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.